The morning shift at Seoul Space Station felt like any other day, until June's coffee mug started vibrating on his desk. The young engineer looked up from his quantum receiver ray. Watching the hot liquid ripple in perfect circles, something was wrong with the deep space monitoring equipment. "Hey Hannah, are you seeing this?" June called across the cramped control room to his colleague, a brilliant astrophysicist who could decode signals from dead stars. She was hunched over her workstation, her dark hair falling across her face as green lights danced across multiple screens. "The background radiation is going crazy," Hannah replied, her fingers flying over holographic controls. "It's like someone screaming into the void at maximum volume." Pilot Ty looked up from his flight simulator in the corner, screaming, "That doesn't sound good." He was supposed to be practicing docking procedures for supply runs, but the strange energy readings had caught his attention too. June adjusted the signal filters, trying to clean up the chaotic noise flooding their receivers. The Seoul Space Station orbited Earth at the edge of human-controlled space, designed to listen for exactly this kind of anomaly. But in 3 years of operation, they never detected anything like this. Suddenly, the static cleared. A voice emerged from the speakers, speaking in patterns that definitely weren't human. The alien words carried a desperate urgency that needed no translation. "My God," Hannah whispered, her face pale in the monitor's glow. "It's a distress call." The transmission was weak, fading in and out like a dying radio station through the interference. They could hear what sounded like explosions, screaming, and the deep rumble of collapsing structures. Whatever was happening to these beings, it was catastrophic. Ty abandoned his simulator and rushed over. "Can you triangulate the source?" June's hands shook as he worked the tracking equipment. "It's coming from the Kepler system, about 40 light-years away, but the signal is old. Maybe 6 months by the time it reached us." 6 months, Hannah repeated grimly. "They could all be dead by now." The alien voice continued its desperate plea, and sophisticated computer systems began attempting translation. Slowly, fragments of meaning emerged on their screens. Words like dying, help, and children appeared in glowing text. "They're not just asking for help," Hannah realized. Reading the partial translation, they're begging for someone to save their families. The 3 humans stood in silence, listening to the dying civilization's final message echoing through their small control room. Outside the station's windows, Earth rotated peacefully below them, unaware that somewhere in the darkness, an entire species was facing extinction. "We have to tell the Global Space Command," Ty said finally. June was already reaching for the emergency communication ray. "This changes everything. We're not alone, and they need our help." As he prepared the priority transmission to Earth, more details emerged from the alien signal. The translation computers revealed that the beings called themselves the Kethri. Their sun was dying much faster than predicted, turning their once beautiful world into a radiation-scorched wasteland. They had sent distress calls in every direction, hoping someone, anyone, would hear their plea. "Look at these energy readings." Hannah pointed to her screen. "Their technology is incredible, but it's failing. Whatever's killing their star is beyond their ability to stop." The implications hit them all at once. If a civilization this advanced couldn't save themselves, what hope did humanity have of helping? Earth had barely mastered interstellar travel, and their fastest ships would take decades to reach the Kepler system. But as they listened to the Kethri's message, something stirred in each of them. The alien voices spoke of children hiding in underground shelters, of scientists working until their last breath to find solutions, of ordinary beings showing extraordinary courage in the face of certain doom. "They sound just like U.S. Ty observed. Quietly. June finished encoding the emergency transmission to Earth's leadership. Maybe that's exactly why we have to try. The distress signal continued to play as they worked through the night. Each repetition driving home the urgency of the situation. Somewhere in the vast darkness of space, people were dying. They weren't human people, but they were people nonetheless, with families and dreams and hopes for the future. By dawn, responses began flooding in from Earth. Scientists, engineers, pilots, and world leaders all wanted to know more about humanity's first contact with alien intelligence. But for June, Hannah, and Ty, the choice was already clear. The galaxy had just become a much larger place, filled with neighbors they'd never known existed. And those neighbors needed help that only humans might be able to provide. The rescue ship Unity shook violently as it dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system. Ty gripped the pilot controls, his knuckles white as warning alarms screamed throughout the bridge. Through the main view screen, they could see why no other species had made it this far. A massive field of twisted space-time stretched before them like a cosmic spider web. The fabric of reality itself had been torn and warped, creating deadly gravitational whirlpools that could crush a starship in seconds. Debris from dozens of alien vessels floated in the chaos, silent monuments to failed rescue attempts. Sweet mother of stars, Hannah breathed, studying the readings on her science station. The gravitational distortions are off the charts. It's like someone threw a black hole into a blender. June worked frantically at the engineering console, trying to boost their shield generators. The Cathri weren't kidding when they said this place was a ship graveyard. I'm counting at least 15 different hull designs out there, unknown to the human crew. Their every move was being watched. Hidden monitoring stations scattered throughout the anomaly field belonged to the Vorthik Empire, a proud warrior race that had lost 3 of their finest battleships attempting this same rescue. They observed the small human vessel with a mixture of curiosity and pity. Another primitive species come to die, muttered Vorthik Commander Zethkar from his concealed observation post. Their ship is barely larger than our escape pods. The Unity was indeed small compared to the massive alien warships that had tried before. But what it lacked in size, it made up for in human ingenuity. While other species had tried to power through the anomalies with brute force, Ty had a different idea. What if we don't fight it? He said suddenly, studying the swirling patterns of distorted space. Look at how the gravitational fields move. They're not random. There's rhythm. Hannah pulled up detailed scans of the anomaly field. You're right. It's almost like a dance. The distortions pulse in a predictable sequence. June grinned, understanding immediately. We serve it. The plan was crazy enough to work. Instead of using their engines to push through the deadly field, they would ride the gravitational waves. Like surfers on a cosmic ocean, Ty began plotting a course that would use the anomaly's own energy to propel them forward. The Vorthik observers watched in amazement as the human ship suddenly changed tactics. Where their own vessels had charged forward with weapons blazing and shields at maximum, this tiny craft began to dance with the deadly forces round it. Impossible, whispered Zethkar's science officer. They're using the gravitational flux as propulsion. Why didn't we think of that? The Unity dove into the first gravitational whirlpool, its hull groaning under the immense forces, but instead of being crushed, the ship rode the swirling energy like a leaf in a hurricane wind. Ty's piloting skills, honed through years of navigating Earth's chaotic asteroid fields, proved perfect for this impossible course, shields holding at 60%, June reported. Sweat beading on his forehead as he rerouted power from non-essential systems. Hull stress is within acceptable limits. Barely. They spiraled through the first anomaly and shot toward the second, picking up speed as they went. The key was timing. Wait too long, and the gravitational forces would tear them apart. Move too early, and they'd miss the energy wave that would carry them forward. Next one coming up fast. Hannah called out, tracking their trajectory. Gravitational spike in 3, 2, 1. The ship lurched sideways as it caught the edge of another space-time distortion. Emergency lights flickered as the artificial gravity fluctuated, making everyone's stomach lurch. But they were through, surfing from one anomaly to the next like some impossible cosmic roller coaster. Behind them, robot probes from a dozen different alien civilizations followed at a safe distance, recording everything. The Galactic Council had been monitoring rescue attempts for months, documenting each failure for their historical archives. They had never seen anything like what the humans were doing. Their approach is completely illogical. Reported a crystalline being to the council chambers, yet it appears to be working. Halfway through the anomaly field, they encountered something new, a massive creature, easily the size of a space station, floated dormant in the center of a gravitational comm zone. Its hide was scarred by cosmic radiation and strange energy. Patterns flickered along its crystalline scales. "It's alive," Hannah gasped, watching the creature's slow, rhythmic breathing. Some kind of space whale, but unlike anything in our databases. The creature opened one enormous eye as they passed, regarding the small human ship with ancient intelligence. For a moment, it seemed like it might attack. Instead, it sang a deep, haunting note that resonated through their hull. "I think it's wishing us luck," Ty said softly. The final stretch of the anomaly field was the deadliest. Here, the space-time distortions overlapped and created a maze of deadly traps. The wreckage of alien ships was thickest here, including the remains of what looked like an entire battle fleet. But the humans had learned the rhythm now. They danced through the chaos with growing confidence, their small ship weaving between gravitational teeth that had claimed much larger vessels. Every successful maneuver brought them closer to the Kethri home world and the desperate beings waiting their dot as they cleared the final anomaly and saw open space ahead. Cheers echoed through the Unity's bridge. They had done the impossible, succeeding where dozens of other species had failed. In hidden observation posts throughout the system, alien commanders shook their heads in wonder. These humans were either the luckiest beings in the galaxy, or they possessed something special that others had overlooked. The Kethri homeworld hung before them like a dying jewel, its once blue oceans now boiling under the radiation of their unstable sun. The Unity approached carefully, scanning for signs of life as massive solar flares erupted from the star behind them, painting space in deadly colors. "Look at the size of those cities," Hannah whispered, pointing to the massive structures visible from orbit. The Kethri had built their settlements deep underground, with only crystalline domes poking above the surface like glittering bubbles. Each dome flickered with protective energy shields that struggled against the increasing radiation. Ty received their first direct communication from the planet below. The voice was different from the distress signal they'd heard months ago, but carried the same desperate hope. The universal translator worked overtime to convert the alien words into something they could understand. "Unknown vessel, please identify yourselves. Are you here to help us? This is the human rescue ship Unity," Ty responded into his communicator. "We received your distress call. We're here to help." A long silence followed. Then, suddenly, the communication channels erupted with dozens of voices speaking at once. The Kethri couldn't believe that someone had actually come. After months of sending signals into empty space, hoping against hope that someone would hear them, rescue had finally arrived. You traveled all this way for us." The voice belonged to someone who identified herself as Council Leader Nera. "But we're strangers to you. Our peoples have never met." June leaned into the communicator. "That doesn't matter. You needed help, so we came, down on the planet's surface. In the deepest underground city of Velthar, thousands of Kethri gathered. Round communication screamed to see their unexpected saviors. They had imagined their rescuers would be a mighty warrior race with massive fleets, or perhaps advanced beings of pure energy. They never expected 3 young people in a ship barely larger than their own shuttlecraft. The Kethri themselves were beautiful in an alien way, standing about 7 feet tall. They had elongated limbs and faces with large, expressive eyes that changed color with their emotions. Their skin had a subtle crystalline quality that caught and reflected light, making them seem to glow softly. In the darkness of their underground refuge, permission to land, tasked, already plotting a course to the largest city dome. Granted, but please be careful. Council Leader Neil replied, the radiation levels on the surface are deadly. Even our strongest shields can only protect you for a few minutes. The Unity descended through the planet's tortured atmosphere, dodging chunks of debris kicked up by the solar storms. The landing was rough, with the ship's hull groaning under the assault of radiation and electromagnetic interference. They touched down in a sealed docking bay beneath the city's main dome as the airlock cycled open. June, Hannah, and Ty got their first look at actual aliens. A delegation of Kethri waited for them, their eyes shifting from deep blue to bright gold as they saw the humans emerge. The emotion was clearly excitement mixed with disbelief. Council Leader Near stepped forward, her movements graceful despite the obvious exhaustion weighing on her. She was older than the others, with silver streaks running through her crystalline skin like veins of precious metal. I am Near of the Kethri High Council, she said, her voice carrying musical tones that the translator struggled to capture. In all our history, no species has ever risked so much for people they had never met. Hannah stepped forward and, in a gesture that would be remembered in Kethri history forever, offered her hand in the human greeting of friendship. I'm Hannah. We're glad we could make it in time. The simple handshake sent ripples of amazement through the gathered crowd. To the Kethri, physical contact with strangers was reserved for the deepest bonds of trust and friendship. That these aliens would offer such intimacy immediately spoke volumes about human nature. As they were led deeper into the underground city, the humans were struck by its beauty. Despite facing extinction, the Kethri had created something wonderful. Gardens filled with bioluminescent plants provided gentle light, while crystalline sculptures channeled and amplified the limited energy available. Children played in areas designed to look like the surface world they could no longer visit. How many of you are there? June asked as they walked through crowded residential areas. About 12 million on this continent, Mir replied sadly. We had nearly 50 million before the sun began its death cycle. The others, she didn't need to finish. They passed through a memorial hall where the names of the lost were inscribed on walls of living crystal. Each name glowed softly, and touching one would share memories of that person's life. The humans stood quietly, overwhelmed by the weight of so much loss. Why did you really come? Asked a young Kethri named Keth, who worked as a city engineer. Your ship is small. Your crew is tiny. What can 3 people do that our entire civilization cannot? Ty considered the question carefully. Maybe that's exactly why we can help. Sometimes you need fresh eyes to see solutions you've missed. In the central council chambers, holographic displays showed the true scope of the crisis. Their sun was collapsing faster than any stellar model predicted, pumping out radiation that was slowly sterilizing their world. The Kethri had tried everything: massive shield generators, underground cities, even attempts to relocate to their outer planets. Nothing has worked, Mira explained, her eyes fading to a dim gray of despair. Our greatest scientists have calculated that we have perhaps 2 months before the final solar event destroys what's left of our atmosphere. The humans studied the data with growing determination. They had come too far and risked too much to give up now. Somewhere in all this information was the key to saving an entire civilization. "We'll figure something out," Hannah promised, and for the first time in months, hope flickered in Kethri's eyes again. The Kethri Science Laboratory buzzed with activity as Hannah spread out holographic blueprints across the main table. For the past week, she and June had been working round the clock with Velta, the planet's most brilliant atmospheric physicist. The Kethri scientist was younger than most of his colleagues, with bright silver markings along his crystalline skin that indicated his specialty in energy manipulation. "The problem isn't just the radiation," Velta explained, his large eyes shifting from deep purple to amber as he concentrated. "Our sun is emitting quantum particles that are literally tearing apart our atmosphere molecule by molecule. It's like trying to hold water in a net." June studied the energy readings on his portable scanner. "But what if we don't try to hold it? What if we rebuild it faster than it's being destroyed?" The idea was so simple that it was brilliant. While the Kethri had focused on creating bigger and stronger shields, the humans suggested something completely different. Instead of blocking the deadly particles, they would use the planet's own resources to continuously regenerate the atmosphere. "Look at this." Hannah pointed to her calculations. "Your planet has massive ice deposits at the polar regions. If we can set up atmospheric processes there, we can convert the ice to breathable gases faster than the radiation can destroy them." Velta's eyes went wide, shifting to a bright golden color that indicated excitement. "The ice caps, of course. We've been so focused on protecting what we have. We never thought about making more. But the solution wasn't simple to implement. The polar regions were the most radiation-soaked areas of the planet, where the solar storms hit hardest. Any equipment placed there would need to survive conditions that would melt most known materials. We need to build atmospheric processes that can work in hell itself," June muttered, sketching designs on a holographic tablet. That's when the real human innovation began. While other alien species had sent messages of sympathy and promises of prayers, the humans rolled up their sleeves and started building. They combined Kethri crystalline technology with human engineering principles to create something entirely new. The first breakthrough came when Hannah discovered that certain Kethri crystals could actually absorb radiation and convert it to usable energy. "It's like solar panels, but for deadly space radiation," she explained excitedly to the gathered scientists working 18-hour days. The human Kethri team designed atmospheric processes that would not only survive the polar radiation, but actually use it as a power source. The machines would burrow deep into the ice caps, melting and processing the water into oxygen and nitrogen, then pump the fresh atmosphere into the planet's protective magnetic field lines. "The other species who contacted us offered to take our children to safety," Velta said during one late-night work session. "But you're the first to suggest saving our world itself." The construction phase was where human determination really shone. While the Kethri had sophisticated manufacturing robots, they had been designed for precision work in controlled environments. Building massive atmospheric processes in the middle of a radiation storm required a different approach. Ty volunteered to pilot the construction missions personally, flying supply runs to the polar regions in a specially shielded shuttle. The trips were incredibly dangerous, with solar flares that could fry electronics and radiation levels that would kill an unprotected being in minutes. "Just another day at the office," Ty joked as he suited up for his 15th run to the North Pole, though his hands shook slightly as he checked his radiation dosimeter. The Kethri watched in amazement as the humans worked alongside their robotic construction crews. Where the aliens had always relied on automation, June insisted on hands-on involvement. He personally welded connections in the processor cores. His environmental suit's radiation alarmed screaming warnings that he calmly ignored. Your species is either incredibly brave or completely insane, Velter observed, watching June work in conditions that would have killed most Kethri instantly. Probably both, Hannah replied with a grin, making final adjustments to the quantum conversion matrix that would turn deadly radiation into life-giving atmosphere. The first atmospheric processor came online 3 weeks after construction began. The moment it activated, pumping fresh oxygen into the planet's thinning atmosphere, cheers erupted throughout the underground cities for the first time in months. Atmospheric readings showed improvement instead of decline, but one processor wasn't enough. They needed at least 12 units working simultaneously to keep pace with the atmospheric destruction. The race was on to build and deploy the remaining processors before the next major solar event. Working round the clock. The combined human Kethri teams manufactured processors with assembly line efficiency. The humans introduced concepts like modular construction and rapid deployment that the Kethri had never considered, instead of building each processor as a unique masterpiece. They created standardized components that could be quickly assembled on site. Your people think differently than we do, Velter observed, watching human engineers train Kethri workers in rapid construction techniques. We make each thing perfect. You make many things work. By the time the 11th processor was deployed, the planet's atmosphere had stabilized. The 12th unit provided the safety margin they needed, as the final processor hummed to life at the South Pole. Atmospheric readings across the planet showed something the Kethri hadn't seen in over a year. Their world was healing. The success was beyond anything they had dared hope for. Not only had the atmospheric processes stopped the deterioration, but they were actually improving the air quality beyond pre-crisis levels. The deadly radiation that had threatened to kill their world was now powering the machines that kept them alive, standing in the central command center. Watching green lights indicate successful operation of all 12 processors, Velter turned to his human colleagues with tears in his large eyes. You didn't just save our lives, he said quietly. You saved our home. 6 months after the atmospheric processes came online, the Kethri home world was thriving like never before. The skies, once choked with deadly radiation, now shimmered with clean air that sparkled in the filtered sunlight. Children played in surface parks for the first time in years, their laughter echoing across gardens that bloomed with renewed life. In the great assembly hall of Velthara, representatives from 47 different alien civilizations had gathered for an unprecedented event. The Galactic Council, which had governed interstellar relations for thousands of years, was meeting to discuss humanity's application for membership. But this wasn't just any membership hearing. In all our recorded history, announced Council, Speaker Vexondra, her 3 mouths speaking in perfect harmony, no species has ever been fast-tracked to full membership status. The humans have achieved something remarkable. June, Hannah, and I sat in the observer section, still amazed by how quickly their lives had changed. What started as a simple rescue mission had turned into the most significant first contact event in galactic history. Behind them sat Velter and Council Leader Nira, now serving as Earth's strongest advocates in the cosmic community. The debate that followed revealed just how much the human rescue had shocked the galaxy. Species after species took the floor to share their observations of the mission, and their conclusions were striking. We monitored their approach through the anomaly field, reported Commander Zethkar of the Vorthic Empire, his warrior's pride clearly wounded. Our finest battleships failed where their small craft succeeded. They turned our failure into their pathway to success. A crystalline being from the Nexus Collective added its analysis, their problem-solving methods are unlike anything in our databases. Where we see obstacles, they see opportunities. Where we calculate impossibilities, they find alternatives. But it was the testimony of the rescued Kethri that truly moved the assembly. Velda stepped forward, his skin glowing with the bright gold patterns that indicated deep emotion. They didn't come to conquer or to claim resources, he began, his musical voice carrying clearly through the hall's translation systems. They came because we asked for help. That's simple. No negotiations. No demands for payment. No political conditions. They heard strangers in trouble and responded. The impact of his words rippled through the assembled delegates, in a galaxy where most interactions were based on trade agreements, territorial disputes, or military alliances. The concept of unconditional assistance was revolutionary. As news of the rescue spread throughout known space, something unprecedented began happening. Other species started reaching out to Earth directly, not through official diplomatic channels, but as individuals seeking help with problems their own governments couldn't solve. A mining colony on the edge of Androxy space sent a desperate message about equipment failures that were trapping workers underground. Within weeks, human engineers had designed new extraction tools that not only freed the trapped miners but revolutionized safety procedures across the sector. The ocean world of Aquaticus faced ecological collapse when an invasive species began consuming their coral reefs. Human marine biologists worked with local scientists to develop a solution that saved the ecosystem while creating new food sources for the planet's population. Each success story spread further through the galactic communication networks. Humans weren't just good at solving technical problems, the reports indicated. They approached each crisis with a combination of creativity, determination, and genuine care that other species found remarkable. The cultural impact was equally significant. The Kethri had begun teaching human languages in their schools, with thousands of young Kethri learning Korean, English, and Mandarin. Human art, music, and literature were being translated and shared across dozens of worlds. Your species brings something new to the galaxy, observed the ancient keeper of the archives, a being so old that its species name had been forgotten. Hope. We had grown comfortable with the idea that some problems simply couldn't be solved, you prove. Otherwise, but perhaps the most significant change was in how other species viewed Earth itself. What had once been dismissed as a primitive backwater world was now seen as the home of the galaxy's most innovative problem solvers. Alien students applied to human universities. Scientists requested joint research projects. Even the most advanced civilizations found themselves curious about human methods and perspectives. The ceremony concluding humanity's membership in the Galactic Council was unlike any in the organization's history. Instead of the usual formal proceedings, it became a celebration attended by billions across the galaxy via holographic broadcast. As June, Hannah, and Tai were honored as Earth's first official ambassadors. They remained humble about their achievement. When asked what advice they had for other species facing seemingly impossible challenges, Hannah's response became legendary throughout the galaxy. Don't give up before you try. Sometimes the solution is simpler than you think, and never be afraid to ask for help, because somewhere out there, someone cares enough to answer. The three humans returned to Earth as heroes, but their real legacy wasn't in the honors they received. It was in the network of cooperation and mutual aid that began growing throughout the galaxy. Species that had never worked together before started collaborating on projects. Problems that had seemed insurmountable for centuries were suddenly being solved through combined efforts. The Kethri homeworld became a symbol of what was possible when different peoples worked together. Their atmospheric processes, now powering clean air for dozens of planets, bore a simple inscription in both Kethri and human languages, given freely by friends to friends. In the years that followed, whenever the galaxy faced a crisis too big for any one species to handle, The call would go out, get the humans involved, and they would come, not as conquerors or saviors, but as neighbors willing to roll up their sleeves and help. The universe had become a smaller, friendlier place. And it all started with 3 young people who heard a cry for help and decided to answer. The end.